Frankie. Hi, Frankie. Are you going to be in this one? Say hello to everyone. Hi, everybody. It's Debbie Corso from DBTpath.com, and of course, many of you also know me from healingfrombpd.org. And I'm coming to you today with this graphic that I posted up on Facebook and other places that I actually found from BPD Awareness of Tampa Bay. It's an excellent graphic. So it is about the types of behaviors that we aim to reduce when we are seeking DBT to help us with being emotionally sensitive and emotionally dysregulated, as well as the behaviors we want to increase. So excellent graphic. I'm going to put it up right now and go over this with you, each and every line item. And then if you have any questions, you can let me know and I'll do my best to answer them, as will my co-facilitator over at DBT Path, licensed therapist Alicia Paz. So let's get started.
Okay, so as you can see at the very top, there is a picture of a road sign and it says Road to a Life Worth Living. And we find that particularly appropriate because of our company name, DBT Path. And it really is a road or a path to the destination, and there are a lot of difficulties and a lot of triumphs along the way, and it is a process. And in this graphic, there are some road signs you'll see along the way and how to deal with them as you're learning dialectical behavior therapy. So, as I mentioned, on the left, we see what are labeled as problems or behaviors that we want to decrease if we're emotionally sensitive or have trouble with emotion dysregulation. And on the right-hand side are behaviors that when you're involved in learning and practicing DBT, you want to increase. And those are the DBT skills. So let's start with the first one. We want to decrease confusion about ourselves as far as identity issues. Your mind controls you instead of you controlling your mind. Identity issues is something that is common in a lot of people who have borderline personality disorder, which is the condition that originally is what DBT was set out to treat, although now it is being used to train therapists who treat patients with a variety of emotion regulation issues. But this identity piece, you may relate to it if you have BPD or perhaps even if you do not. And through mindfulness, on the increased side of what we want to work on, we have increased self-observation and awareness, and this is a core skill. So a lot of times when people ask, where should I start at DBT Pathway classes, mindfulness is always a really great place to start. Not to say distress tolerance isn't as well, because you will get a lot of mindfulness, but if you really, really want to build on the core skill, that may be where you want to start. And through increased self-observation and awareness, you really do begin to tap into who you really are. And for a lot of people, including myself, it wasn't until DBT that I really started to get a sense of who I was through these types of exercises. Number 2 on the list is impulsivity, which a lot of people who have emotion regulation issues can greatly relate to. And it says acting before thinking it all through, tolerating distress, and under the increased behaviors, it says distress tolerance, learning to tolerate distress instead of acting out. I think that one of the most powerful things I learned in DBT, and just hearing it isn't enough. You actually have to go in and practice and do different skills to really have it settle in and become integrated into the way that you respond to everyday things. But the thought that just because I have an impulse doesn't mean I have to act on it, and just because I have a really intense feeling doesn't mean that I'm in danger and have to act out on that. It sounds so simple and common sense, and other people might shake their head if they're not emotionally sensitive and think, well, duh, but when you are emotionally sensitive and dysregulated, the intensity level that comes with your emotions can just be so incredible sometimes that it just feels like you have to jump from A, the impulse, to B, the action to get relief. And that's totally understandable. And for a lot of people, it does provide at least a temporary relief. But the problem is there's often guilt and shame and regret because the behaviors that we choose to engage in when we're feeling in a crisis or emotionally stressed out or dysregulated are often things that are harmful to ourselves or that cause destruction and sabotage in our lives and in our relationships and in our employment situations. So, in DBT, especially in the distress tolerance class, we learn skills to help us cope when times are really distressing. There are often situations in life, usually at least once a day, if not more, where something that is out of our control is stressing us out. And we learn strategies and ways for dealing with this rather than letting it overcome us and influence our behavior in ways that we're trying to reduce or decrease. The next item on the list, number 3, is emotional instability as a behavior or issue that we want to decrease. It says fast, intense mood changes with little control or steady negative emotional state with difficulty experiencing positive emotions. You may relate to one or both of these at any given time. I'll tell you that one of the things that was really difficult for me when I first started DBT was the fact that I did have very fast, intense mood swings. And it was disturbing to others around me, especially my boyfriend at the time, who would say, "What in the world? You were just fine, and now you're like totally flipping out," or "You were just fine, and now you're a wreck. You're crying. You're all depressed. Like, what happened from one minute to the next?" And it's really hard for people to understand if they don't have those types of major mood swings, because most people will identify something that may have happened and feel a mood coming on and notice a shift. So it can be quite startling for others, and it can be startling for us, the people that actually experience it. And that can lead to problem behaviors because of just feeling so uncomfortable and scared and anxious about, the sudden mood swing. What I've noticed over time with practicing DBT is I have far fewer mood swings, for sure, hands down, much fewer. When I do have them, I do tend to notice that something happened to cause it. Now, I can't always track it down, and it's not necessary to be able to do that in order to cope effectively with it. But you do become more aware, more mindful of something that may have been contributing. You may be emotionally vulnerable because you have a number of personal things going on at once, or maybe you have an upcoming dentist appointment you're a little bit nervous about, or maybe, you've been having bad dreams, whatever it is, and then something on the radio or the television or something someone says or even a scent in the air can trigger our feelings to shift quite rapidly if you're emotionally sensitive. And in DBT, we learn how to control our reaction to that a lot more than we ever thought was possible. And in the increased behavior side of the chart for this one, it says emotion regulation, improving emotional control, remembering it is not possible to totally control emotions, reducing vulnerability to negative emotions. And I kind of spoke to that last piece a little bit. In our classes, we do talk about ways to prevent ourselves as best as we can from getting to a point where we're extremely vulnerable. So just looking at sleep patterns and our, eating habits and different ways that we can strengthen ourselves in the other aspects of who we are so that we're less vulnerable on the emotional plane. The next item on the list, number 4, is interpersonal problems. a pattern of difficulty keeping relationships steady and getting what you want from others, and also saying no to unwanted requests, or AKA feeling like you're a doormat, for a lack of a better way of putting it. In DBT, we do learn assertiveness training. We learn the difference between being assertive and aggressive, and how to get to the assertive side so that we're not causing any harm to others or to ourselves. And at the same time, we start to build our confidence about our right to have our needs met and respected just as much as everyone else's. And on the increase side of this part of the chart, it says interpersonal effectiveness. Deal with conflicts, get what you want and need, say no assertively, do this while keeping self-respect and relationships cool. I know for the longest time I had trouble saying no because I wanted everyone to like me, and I was afraid they wouldn't if I said no. And I was afraid I would lose opportunities, or that things would pass me by if I said no. And now I've gotten to the point where it is still kind of difficult, and there are times where I have difficulty saying no, but a lot of the times I am able to, and it does give you this sense of self-respect, because there are some days when you know you just can't cope with dealing, or if someone wants to bring their kids over for you to babysit and you've had a long day and you've just gotten over a headache, and you want to say yes to be nice, and you want them to like you, and you want them to feel like they can count on you. But what about taking care of your health, your mental and physical health first, and saying, geez, Judy, you know how much I love your kids and I'd love to do it, but it's been a really rough day for me and I really need to take care of myself. Thank you for understanding. Can you picture yourself being able to say something like this? Because this is the thing that we can work toward with you, to start practicing, to be able to get there and to not feel badly about it, and to understand why it's okay to not feel badly about it, and to work through any feelings that come up that tell you you should feel badly about it. So that is where the interpersonal problems really comes to life, is through some role play and practice of your personal situations that you want to work on. And last but not least is number 5, patient and family dilemmas. The inability for the patient and family to compromise to something reasonable and fair. Now, we don't refer to you as patients at DBT Path. We refer to you as our students. So you can just substitute that word in. And the increase side for that one is walking the middle path. Ability to resolve family issues using concepts of behaviorism, dialectics, and validation. So basically, we learn to see things from the other person's perspective, to look at the times when we might be looking at things in all or nothing extreme black or white terms, especially with regard to other people's perspective and our own. And we talk about ways that we can change our behaviors, ways that we can suggest change to others in our lives, dialectics, seeing both sides of the coin, and validation, just really, I'll give you an example. If you're feeling a certain way about a situation, that is because your experience is colored by everything that's happened to you in that moment up until that point. So whether or not you're having a crystal clear, accurate perspective of what's happening in the relationship or what's going on, it is understandable that you would be having your particular experience. So we talk about and validate that whole experience when we get into walking the middle path. So thank you again for this wonderful graphic from BPD Awareness of Tampa Bay. They are on Facebook and often post really awesome things, so be sure to visit them. If you have any questions about this chart or the wrap-up conversation I'm about to do, come to our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/DBT Path. I'm sure you can just type DBT Path into the Facebook search bar and get there as well. Or go to dbtpath.com, and on our contact page, I believe you can get to our Facebook page that way as well. While you're there, you can also see class information. So let's get back to the live in-person me, sort of, because this is recorded.
I love teaching DBT skills because they have literally saved my life, and they continue to help me to stay on track even when things get really rough. Many of you know, who follow me over at healingfrombpd.org, that I am currently enrolled in an 8-week trauma recovery group, and this week will be week 3. I actually just left a message for the doctor who runs that group and received a voicemail reply after I got back from the dentist. By the way, if I'm talking strangely, this is all numb here right now. Side note, unrelated. But yes, she called me back and said, it does get worse before it gets better, and it's really good to have grounding skills and to have the skills in place already with DBT to be able to finally face and cope with like really bad severe trauma from the past. So a little background is that I had tried to do this trauma recovery group in the past and just wasn't able to handle it because being an emotionally sensitive person and at that time meeting the criteria for borderline personality disorder, it was just so difficult for me to handle what would come up with the flashbacks or needing to really focus in on specifics of what happened in the past in terms of abuse and things like that. I just couldn't handle it, and that's okay. So it was suggested that I go through DBT first, and I did, and now I finally feel ready. But I'm not going to lie to you, it is not a walk in the park. I've been having mood swings, I've been having crying spells, I've been having anger, I've been having some dissociative episodes. So I've noticed all these things, and I assume that they must be normal considering the fact that most of the time when we have trauma in our past, we want to avoid it. It's just the natural thing that we want to do to have relief and not suffer. And in this type of in vivo exposure therapy for PTSD, we're deliberately looking at in detail the trauma, which had a lot of drama in it. And basically, so the doctor left me a very kind message saying that it's good to have compassion with myself, and it makes a lot of sense because it really does get worse at first, a little bit worse before it gets a lot better, is what she said. So having these skills, being equipped with DBT skills, can not only help you in the present now and as you're working on your recovery, but in the future as well. If and when you feel ready to tackle your past trauma issues with a professional therapist, you will have the skills in place to be able to handle the extremes that will come up, because they will come up. And I'm experiencing them too. And the weekend was kind of rough, but I got through it, and I just kept reminding myself, this too shall pass. There's cause for this. There's reason for this. So as you could see in the chart that we went over today, there are just different ways that we can start to rein in the emotions when they get to be too extreme and replace problem behaviors or things that we've been doing that just aren't working for our long-term benefit with new behaviors. And that's what you can learn in DBT, and that's what we teach in our classes online at dbtpath.com. I'm so excited about this because I get messages all the time on Facebook and Twitter, or I have at least, saying we don't have DBT in my area. Well, this solves that problem because we're bringing it to everyone worldwide. And I wouldn't be able to do it without my business partner, who is a licensed therapist, Alicia. So thank you, Alicia, for everything that you do. And I love connecting with you guys as a peer, because I do work closely with you, and that's the only place that I do that. And I do have the support of Alicia as a therapist, so that makes me feel safe and comfortable being able to do the work. And it's a beautiful opportunity. So I hope I see you over in class. We just put the registration links up for next month, as well as the dates and times, so you can actually go and get signed up if you want to, and we can connect next month and work on the skills together. I'm really excited about it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and see you in the next video or blog post. Bye for now.